There is no way that we can say that a person is wrong when they want to get divorced. Nevertheless, children are always, we call it in Yiddish, the korbanos, the sacrificial lambs.
It's so difficult, but you really can't. You have to put the anger aside and the bitterness aside and just concentrate on what's best for your child.
The process of divorce and the post-divorce often creates greater animosity than the marriage did itself.
When people go through divorce, they're not thinking with their heads, they're thinking with their anger, they're thinking with their irritation, they're thinking about their hurt.
And it's felt by everyone, not just the children, but it's felt by people from the same shul, the community.
You have to treat people who are going through a divorce as if they are in mourning.
The research is overwhelming that those who avail themselves of, whether it's groups or individual, avail themselves of counseling services fare much better than those who don't.
Loneliness is hard. Anybody who's divorced would tell you that.
This person is alone in the community. How can we help them? How can we support them? How can we make them feel comfortable?
I did not get love from a parent, and at the end of the day, I want everybody to know you can still get past it, you can still grow up and have a fabulous life.
All of the participants are in pain in reality. The husband, ex-husband, the wife, ex-wife, the children. The wife, she started with a dream probably when she was a few years old of being a kala, being a wife, being a mommy.
I was ecstatic. I think every woman, whether they fantasize about being a bride from the age of 5 or they don't, the wedding is your happiest day of your life.
In reality, now that dream has been shattered.
It was painful, obviously, towards the end.
I got married at 22, had a baby, got divorced 3 years later at 25, and I found myself alone in Flatbush. My parents live out of town, and it's been that way for 15 years.
For the mother, it poses challenges to have to do as a single parent what often taxes two parents in terms of managing the household, managing the finances of the household.
I had to quit my job in the city, take a lower paying job in Brooklyn, which was also difficult because I was supporting my daughter, but it was very important for me.
It's hard for me when I'm at Shul on Yontif and my son doesn't have anyone's tallest to go under, and me and another single mom were standing there and we're literally crying because we completely forgot about Birkas Kohanim.
For the non-custodial parent, and in the vast majority of cases that's the father, there's his status, particularly in the Orthodox Jewish community, where being part of a family, being a head of a family, is very much valued and emphasized.
All these changes can evoke for the father some very difficult questions, such as, who am I now? What role do I play in the lives of my children? What role do I play at all to anyone? Do I matter?
He sees himself paying support where he has nothing anymore. He no longer has a wife, he no longer has children the way he sees it, and now he's paying this regular support. I mean, rightfully so, there's children, we understand that, but at the end of the day, the father views the support almost as just another bill, another financial responsibility.
I've been divorced now about 14 years. My oldest is almost 30 now. Time heals all wounds, okay? But that wound is open. I can't emphasize enough how I could have used people to help me.
You have to see it as a type of loss, as a type of death. You've lost the hope of a marriage that can sustain forever. The beauty of people together never giving up on each other. You go through denial, you go through hurt, you go through anger, you go through eventually depression and then eventually come back out. So it is very important to understand what you're going through, get the therapy that can help you support yourself during it, so that you don't regress and make decisions that are bad for children.
Now remember also, the children suffered way before the divorce because the process of divorce probably had maybe 1 year or many years of shalom bayis stress that the children had to live through. It's very painful to be a child and watch your parents fight. Sometimes the arguments were about them. Maybe I'm the whole cause of this, they're saying to themselves. Maybe, if my parents didn't have us, maybe they wouldn't have even be divorced.
So as a child, I think it's impossible not to think that it's your fault. Children are inherently egocentric.
I've heard children say to me, when my mother says something bad about my father, it's like they're saying something bad about me. Because I am partly my mother or partly my father. And it's very, very distressing to the children.
You see children who are angry, children who are into bullying or making life harder for others because life is hard for them.
I see a very, very big problem with different lifestyles. I have a lot of girls who tell me that when they go to their mother, they live one way, and then they go to their father and they live another way. And the girls really voice this, and they have no idea who they are.
The bitterness and hatred that you see when a marriage breaks up is unique. Husbands and wives know how to hurt each other better than anybody.
I've had cases where mothers had a store, mom had a store, and she bought from factories and manufacturers abroad, and the ex called those factories and manufacturers and said, don't sell to her anymore, she's not credit worthy, and she won't be able to pay the bills, and ultimately the store had to close. It's not just a pain for the mom, ultimately any pain for a single mom is a pain to your own children.
They'll take the children as prisoners for bitterness. Now, the way the mind works is that they rarely see themselves as actually manipulative. They see themselves as victim. And the problem with being a victim is that you then feel you can do anything to get back.
The divorcing process puts in so much negativity. You know, people are fighting for the rest of their lives. People are fighting for the rest of their life.
I believe, and many experts in the field believe, the most pernicious, destructive part of divorce is something referred to as parental alienation. And that's when one parent bad-mouths the other parent, or in many instances even actively tries to brainwash the child to believe very unflattering and sometimes almost criminal things about a parent that are largely, if not completely, unwarranted. And that places the child sort of in the middle of the conflict, but that also tampers with the child's perception of reality, because the child is somehow being forced to believe something that is not what he actually, or she actually sees or experiences. So then the child cannot trust their natural instincts, cannot trust their impressions, because they're being told by someone very important in their life that what they actually sense and believe is not accurate.
The intense stress over time causes people to operate at a lower level of functioning, and eventually they come back to themselves again. But it's during that important period, that short period of time, when the children could be really hurt. That's the time that we have to teach people not to give in to those feelings.
Even though you hate your husband, and I understand why you hate him, don't give over the hatred to the children. Marriage is a beis medrash. It's a beis medrash where children learn how to deal with a mate. They don't realize that they're really training the child to forget the precept of honoring one's father or one's mother.
If your child learns from you to hate the other parent, that is a burden that that child is going to carry through his life.
You gotta leave them alone, because you are killing them. You're killing them in every respect, and we as teachers see it. Because when they come to class, it's written all over the kid's face. She can't focus, she can't concentrate, eating disorders start. It kills their lives. You don't see them in school. We see them in school.
Once you have children, you're together forever. You may not be in the same house, you may be married to different people, but your children require that you're together as parents. And that parenting bond has to take place and continue despite the fact that the marriage bond is no longer there. That's the work of divorce. It's very important work.
It has to be said again and again that your parent loves you, your father loves you, your mother loves you. I think it has to be said again and again. Although we are having problems with each other, it does not affect the feelings that we have for you. It doesn't affect your relationship with us.
It's very important to be able to know who to ask for the right advice. Don't go to your rabbi looking for legal advice. Don't go to, just anyone off the street asking for financial advice. I had so many individuals from the community coming out and giving legal advice, withhold custody from the other spouse until you get what you want. There's no place for leverage in a divorce. You go through the system as honestly and truthfully as you can, and that will provide the best results.
I try to encourage mediation. Where you will end up with mediation 9 times out of 10 is where you're going to end up 4 years later. You're going to end up with the same solution.
You can't change someone else, but you can change yourself. So make it not miserable, because it's your whole rest of your life.
The best advice I can give is a lot of people get lazy with dealing with their children because it becomes that much more difficult when you're divorced. Don't be lazy.
I tell the father, don't make your child into an orphan. I have seen it too many times, and as a result, when that child grows up, he's not a good husband and he's not a good father because he learned it from his father.
The most important point is divorce is survivable, that both the adults and the children, if it's managed correctly, can emerge from it unscathed.
What we as children of divorce have to realize is that we are never the outcome of a divorce. We are what we make of it afterwards.
When I was a very young child, 3-4 years old, I was constantly watching my parents fighting, and by the time I was 7 years old, my parents were getting divorced. I am here, I am having my 25th wedding anniversary with my husband. I married off my daughter, I have a son, I have grandchildren, I have a great job and a great life, despite everything that they did.
A successful divorce is when the families become two distinct families without a whole lot of involvement in each other's lives.
It took me a while to get over my feelings towards him, so that made it uncomfortable because it's like a love-hate relationship. As time went on, I was able to work on that, and it's amicable, it's respectful. We use a mediator whenever we need to discuss issues regarding our son. Otherwise, I don't need to talk to him at all. I don't need to see him. We communicate through email. He just got married a couple months ago, so that was strange at first, but I think in the long run it does me good. He has a new wife, a new child, so I would like to do the same.
It's important to emphasize it's not a sign of weakness and it's not a sign of vulnerability. People gain and benefit from having opportunities to discuss difficult situations and sometimes even just being validated by others who are going through similar experiences. Makes it work better, makes it go better.
We do have a specific program called Devoted Dads that we developed based on the needs that we saw in the community.
Because we are more understanding of the fact that, you know, maybe men have a harder time coming forward, but that doesn't mean they're not suffering, and that doesn't mean they're not hurting, and they need this help.
For a man to go forward, that forward involves building his life outside of himself, improving that relationship with his children, improving the relationship with his ex, which is going to go on for a lifetime, and making himself available and able to be married properly in a new marriage.
We have also different groups that are support groups for the mothers as well, who also come together to gain support from each other and guidance.
Well, I reached out to a professional therapist. I realized, this is bigger than me, and I realized not in every situation can you juggle on your own, so I definitely reached out to my family and still do count on them a lot.
I strongly feel that counseling, professional counseling, is absolutely indispensable. Even when parents seem to think that the children are doing fine, or the children are well adjusted, or they're happier now than they were in a house where there was controversy, nonetheless, it's impossible to see at that time what the long-range effects of divorce are.
So let's paint another scene. We have a man who's been left by his wife. He's sitting down watching TV, and his daughter comes downstairs. She's 13 years old, right, Devora. She comes downstairs and says, "Daddy, how you doing?" "I don't know, work, it's terrible. It's just terrible." In her head, she now feels sorry for her father. She feels like her father is a poor thing. And unconsciously, she feels she has to take care of him in order just to be okay. She has to make him bigger so that she has somebody to take care of her. It's really simple. You're going through divorce. You were left by your wife. You are depressed. You're angry. You are feeling hopeless. I understand all that. We're going to get you therapy. You'll go to a men's group to talk about it. But make sure when you go home, assert your personal greatness. Keep that intergenerational boundary strong. And when your daughter comes downstairs, you say, "I'm fine, sweetheart. Go upstairs and be with your friends."
We tend to stigmatize people who get divorced. We tend to judge them. Why couldn't they work it out? What was the matter? What was the issue? It's not our job and not our business to determine why this marriage didn't work. And it is our job to deal with the aftermath and to deal with the people and to deal with them in a human and appropriate way, the way we would deal with anyone in any kind of need.
We don't turn into crazy people because we're divorced. We might belong to a third category now, but we're still us, we're still here, and we need you now more than ever. Whenever anyone chips in or says, drop them off, go out for a couple hours, or come out with us and, we'll send over a babysitter, it is so appreciated, more than they'll ever imagine.
I've seen what we do for those children who have lost parents. We need to do the same thing for those that are from families of divorced homes. Whether that means a tuition break, she too should get the tuition break. Whether it means putting together a fund for a young lady that would like to go back for a second year or to help her out to go to seminary.
The community needs to be available. Who's the community? Neighbors, friends, rabbis, educators, the machanchos, the college class teachers. There just has to be a heightened sensitivity to people who are going through this and what are some of the issues that they face.
Very important that the school have a copy of the divorce agreement, and divorce agreements are very readable. School may need to know about the visitation, because sometimes the day after visitation the child can be even dysfunctional. It may need time to diffuse from that transition from one home to the other.
I feel like there aren't enough resources for us. If someone's in an abusive relationship and they need funds to get out or some emergency aid.
Remember the divorcees that have been around for longer. It's not just the ones who are separating now or yesterday. There are divorcees who have been single for, whether it be 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, 15 years.
What most people don't realize is how hard it is to actually pick up the phone and invite yourself to somebody's house. Even if you know them, even if you're friends with them, it makes such a difference to get an invitation.
The Rav of my shul really did step in to take the role of anything that my boys would need, shul-wise, school-wise, learning-wise. He personally picks up my kids every Friday night to go to shul.
The Torah's mandate for chesed is not for askanim or rabbanim or for community leaders. It's for every one of us, because we can all do something and we grow from that. We all grow. We grow tremendously. I don't know, I think one of the Rothschilds once said, at least the story is in his name, that the only thing we have in life are the things we've given away. And in this area, if we give to other families and we give to children and we help parents to get through and rebuild their lives, then we've really acquired something that's eternal.
Oil means a tent. In a tent, and I think oil really means, in the context of the Ohel that I know, is a big tent. And in a big tent you have a lot of different situations. There are widows and widowers who are raising children. So it's not just about divorce. Oil is here to provide and to sensitize vis-a-vis social services that are so needed for our community.
The lesson I've learned is that there's light at the end of the tunnel. It often looks like it's an oncoming train. It may be, but that train will stop before it hits you. And you'll get out to the other side of the tunnel. It'll look pretty. It may not look as beautiful as beforehand, but it'll look great, and you can move on and you'll have a beautiful life with your family.